Welcome back to another great podcast of Before the First Cast. I have Mr. Andrew Behnke here with me. Andrew, how are you doing tonight, man?
Good, man. How are you?
Good, good. So thank you for coming on and gonna spend the time with us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. Excited about it.
No problem. So for those who don't know you, could you give our viewers and our listeners a little background of how you got into fishing, where your fishing bug started?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Uh, Grew up around fishing. Like my dad and my grandpa always took me fishing, but where I really got the bug for competitive fishing and just fishing in general was because of my mom's job. She was in a management role at Mercury Marine. She was the manager of competitive angling at Mercury. So I would travel with her when I was really little to all these tournaments, to bass tournaments, walleye tournaments, redfish tournaments, king mackerel tournaments, basically anything. And I just spent a lot of time in the service yard and around anglers. And then when I wasn't doing that, we were on the water fishing with people. So I got the bug at a very young age and just it all took off from there. I mean, it's
So,
pretty awesome. I've been all over the place, traveled all across the country, and fished all sorts of different ways.
so correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you started in saltwater instead of freshwater.
Yep, in tournaments. Yep, I started. I think my first tournament, I was 12 years old. We were out of North Carolina, and I took second place. And
Not too.
right there, that lit a no, but it lit a fire in me because I wanted to win so bad. I've always been competitive. I've always played sports. I mean, even at a young age, my parents put me into this daycare center at the YMCA. So I mean, there were all the gymnasiums and everything. We're always playing games, and everything was super competitive. So I just grew up in a very competitive environment, and that's all spread into pretty much everything that I've done from sports, fishing, work, everything.
So my next question is, so that competitive mindset, does it help you when you're fishing tournaments? And how does it help you?
Yeah, it definitely helps because as much as we are like a community, like like there's the bass fishing brotherhood, like everybody wants to help each other when they can. Like you won't leave a brother stranded or brother or sister stranded on the side of the road. You see a boat there. When it comes and that boat splashes into the water, I want to beat everybody. I mean, we can be cordial when we're not competing, but as soon as they start calling boat numbers, I'm coming for you. Like I will beat you. And
Yeah, that
that's like it's a dog eat dog world when you get to a higher level of bass fishing. Everybody's so high, like like, hey, how's it going? Everything. And all of a sudden, the boat numbers start getting called, the hat goes down, and everybody's just like, we got a job to do. So it definitely helps to be uber competitive.
yeah, and here at the local level, I mean, it could be competitive too. It's a kind of cutthroat kind of deal. Um, like you said,
And
once they those numbers, it's on.
I will say probably some of the most competitive tournaments. I mean, besides like the Bassmaster Opens, but some of the most competitive tournaments I've been in have been like the BFLs or an Angler's Choice tournament. Because then it's even more because those guys, you compete against those guys like every other week or every weekend or even on Tuesday nighters. Like you have a personal vendetta against them. You don't want to lose to so and so, or like there's more of a relationship there versus when I've been out on the road fishing competitively for the past 4 years basically. I don't know everybody yet. Like there's certain guys that it's like, God, I just really want to beat them. But at that local level, like almost everybody, and you
Hmm.
just want to beat them all.
Yeah, segueing
But
into the Bassmaster Opens, let's talk about your season a little bit. Uh, little rocky this season, but it was your first time
yeah,
for Opens. Um, so just
second.
tell second time. Just tell us a little bit about your
Yep.
sophomore year in the Opens.
Uh Learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself as a fisherman. learned a lot about myself as a person. I put it this way: traveling across the country, fishing 9 tournaments against some of the best bass fishermen in the country will humble you. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
might think you're really good, you got it dialed in. It will humble you very quickly. And it's a great learning experience. Like, I love the experience. Don't get me wrong. And no shade towards anyone or everybody that I compete against. They were just really good. And I considered myself to be very subpar this year for how I've been competing in the past. Um, you have those seasons. It's bass fishing, it's fishing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, sometimes it's really good, sometimes really bad. You just got to ride the wave, do the
Yeah, and
best you can.
the biggest thing
Um,
learning along the way, though. A bad tournament's always a learning experience to take into that next tournament, wherever you
yep.
get. Um, so what do you think was a positive for your season? Where did you see a positive in your season?
Oh, I mean, I guess just learning. Every single tournament was a learning experience. And I will openly say that I probably did something wrong in each tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if you don't do anything wrong, then you're going to end up on top of the leaderboard. Well, that didn't happen. Um, so I did learn. I learned a lot of just making adjustments quicker, how to practice. Just don't get too far inside your head. Uh, like, fish what the fish are telling you. Like, follow your gut. Um, just all those little things to try and build, like, put the pieces of the puzzle together to make yourself a more rounded and better angler no matter where you go. And I really do feel like that is something that you only learn from getting out there and doing it. I mean, you can read about it, you can watch videos about it. I mean, and you can watch all these guys talk about things that they have learned, but until you learn them in person, it's not really going to stick. And
Right.
I definitely learned a lot this year just about how I'm comfortable fishing, and what I have to do to be successful in, like, basically stay in your lane, you know, like, don't try doing what they're doing because that works for them. Don't try doing what he's doing because that works for him. Like, you do what works best for you because everybody's different.
Right. Now, segueing into this upcoming year, things have changed for the Opens guys. Just by the format and the layout,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna have. Are you excited? What's your feelings about the new layout?
Uh, so as a guy like me who still has a full-time career, um, I like it because I will be completely honest, I got pretty drained down last year. Um, on top of not having a season that I wanted, and then just being gone away from home, being away from loved ones as much as I was, it really took a mental toll on me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just tough. It's tough to be competitive when things aren't going well up here. It it's going to show in your competitiveness. Um, that being said, I like the 2 divisions and still having the chance of making it to the Elite Series, just for where I'm at right now. Not that I didn't like the idea of the EQs, because I think there was a lot of really good things. I mean, look at the anglers that made it to the Elite Series the past 2 years. I mean, if you look at last year, the rookies pretty much, they didn't dominate, but they did very well, very
Well,
well. So it's an obvious sign of the product that they were putting out, that it works.
a lot of
Um,
them were
and I
after
don't really,
Angler of the Year this year. It
yeah,
just showed the quality
yeah,
that they.
almost all of them.
Yeah.
Well, I
Um.
mean, when you're fishing basically a mini Elite Series, I mean, you're getting the guys that know how to fish in all sorts of different conditions. And
Mm-hmm.
as I said, it showed. Um, so kind of going back to your question, like, I'm excited for it. Fishing 4 tournaments and having a chance at qualifying for another tournament series. I really like that. Um, these days there's a lot of different tournament options. You can kind of go out and fish whatever you want. Um, and I will say the Toyota Series is still a really good tournament series in Major League Fishing with their championship and the entry fee and the payouts. It's still a really good series. Um, but I just like the idea of fishing to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's always something that I've just felt like I've had to do. So I like the idea of I'm still being able to qualify for a classic and get a chance at fishing the EQs to make the Elite Series. So that I'm very excited about it.
Right. And if I believe you started at the BFL level in MLF. Well, I guess it was called
Yep.
FL at that time, I think, or had it changed to MLF?
Yeah.
And
It
then
was
you,
it was FLW when I started.
yeah. So then you worked your way up to the Toyota series. Or did you
Yep.
fish? Yeah,
Yep. I
fished them.
I fished the BFLs just like the Great Lakes division. I made one regional, but then the rest of the time I didn't really fish to try and make the regional. I was just fishing tournaments to fish tournaments to gain as much experience as I could. And then in 21, that was my first year fishing the Bassmaster Opens. And I got my teeth kicked in the Central Division, and then I couldn't get in the following year, and that's when I decided to jump into the Central Division of the Toyota Series, and I qualified for what was then the Tour. I finished fourth in Angler of the Year in the Central Division, and qualified for the FLW Tour or the MLF. Was it? It was MLF then.
Yeah, it's
The
MLF.
Pro Circuit was what it was. It was the Pro Circuit, and
Right.
that was the year that they changed it to the Invitationals.
Yeah, and
So,
that's no joke either on that side. I mean, they have some
oh
absolute
gosh.
hammers over there.
Oh,
Just
I mean, all of my really good buddies like Andrew Norby, Laker Howell, Ethan Green, the Robinsons, Mitchell,
mhm.
Marty, and Marshall, they're all over there, and they're no slouches in those invitationals. I mean,
Yeah,
if you look at the guys that actually finished in the top, the finishes that they had to have in those 6 tournaments was astonishing. Like you had to be in the top 15 in every single tournament. And
yeah.
those guys, there's no slouches over there either.
So I had a buddy, Derek Hudson, finished third
Yeah,
at.
Derek.
Yeah, he said it's a dog eat dog over there too. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, anywhere you go,
Yeah, Derek can catch him too. He got Steve Lopez too in
yeah,
there. I mean, all those guys can catch him. It's
yeah,
it's impressive to finish to have the standings that they had last year to make it to qualify for the BPT this year was just like holy cow, those guys were unbeatable. Like they could have caught a bass out of a ball out of a puddle,
yeah. I
you
just
know.
make
I
them
mean, it was,
just you guys to throw off, the name. But yeah, I mean, they're any way you go, even the MPFL. I mean, they have hammers over there too because they.
oh, there's hammers over there too. Yep.
So anyway, oh, you're gonna have that stiff competition. And it's
Yeah.
gonna
The
all
the
out
whole
all day.
bass fishing world right now is just on another level. Like everybody's getting so good. I mean, it's all technology based. I mean, it's not just forward facing sonar, everybody. It's not just that, but you look at the mapping, you look at the amount of information that everybody can consume from podcasts, YouTube, all the different TV shows. We have live streamed bass tournaments on Saturdays for
Mm.
3 hours, 4 hours. You can jump on, Bassmaster.com and watch even longer every single day of competition. The wealth of information that you have to help you catch a bass is so prevalent these days versus what it was.
Not to mention the old school magazines. Still, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I grew up. Bassmaster magazine is the way to go. Uh,
Yep.
but yeah,
Still have them all.
I do.
I got another one in the other room.
I got married and I have a box full. I'm not even gonna joke to you. A large moving.
Yeah.
But you know, best of luck to you next year. I can't wait to watch it go down. I think
Thank you.
great
Yeah.
great format that they're gonna run. Um,
Yep.
and they just keep bringing people in. One thing else I want to hit before we move on from next year for you.
Mm-hmm.
What's your feeling about the Elite Series? Because I think it just came out today that they are entry free. You don't have to pay an entry fee anymore.
Yeah. No entry fees.
I think it's a great
Um,
personally.
I so there's you got to really look at the fine print when they release that one because obviously the big talk of the conversation is the payouts now,
Mm-hmm. Are they,
and the last check is $500.
yeah,
Um, You know, with that being said, I feel it's a step in the right direction
Mm-hmm.
because to really legitimize any professional sport, it shouldn't be pay to play. That's how bass fishing has always been. You always pay the entry fees to get in, but it's still a professional sport.
Mm-hmm.
But to really get to that next level, it really shouldn't be pay to play. It should be covered. So I do feel like it's a step in the right direction,
Mm-hmm.
and there can be a lot of improvements. Obviously, it's not like golf. It's not like tennis. We don't have the viewership. We don't have the dollars to be able to fork over millions of dollars to these guys as we'd love to. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not there yet.
Mm-hmm. No,
But with that being said, this is definitely a step in the right direction. There's potential for growth. I would really like to see the last place check at least be like $2,500, to try and help you cover lodging, gas, tackle, just everything else that goes with traveling and fishing tournaments instead of just the entry fee. That's
yeah,
what I'd really like to see.
and I think this year will definitely tell them a lot, on what they need to do differently, and what they could do better. But
Yep.
very curious to see and kind of intrigued to see how it will work and how the anglers' feedback on it. I'm sure it'll be positive. So they can
Yeah.
only thing they can do is build on it.
Well, right. And that's just it. Like with it being the first year, there's going to be some things that they notice they didn't do well. There's going to be things that they notice that went really well. As
Mhm.
long as they can come back together at the end of the year and say, okay, this went well, this didn't, let's fix it. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
that's what it all comes down to. Like with any new change or beginning of anything, there's going to be growing pains. It,
Hmm.
it, it never fails. So as long as they can make the adjustments at the end of the year or on the fly, I mean, there's nothing saying that they can't do it mid-season.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. I'm not the one signing those contracts, so I have no idea. But either way, as long as they can adapt and make the changes necessary to make it a positive change, I don't see how anybody could really be mad about it.
Right. So let's kind of segue to my favorite part of the show. What are some techniques, baits that helped you throughout your season on the opens?
Um, well, first off was a D bomb, a missile baits D bomb. I don't. The one thing I didn't bring in with me, but everybody knows about a missile baits D bomb, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the most versatile baits. You can flip it, pitch it, skip it, cast it, drag it. You can do whatever you want with it. I use it on trailers for jigs. I think I threw a D bomb pretty much at every single tournament this year in some capacity. And I caught smallmouth on it, and I caught largemouth on it. It was a staple. Um, Another one, just a confidence bait for me is a crawfather, the missile baits crawfather, just a simple Texas rig, quarter-ounce weight. Like when I'm not getting bites, that's what I pick up. I cast that thing around anything and everything, drag it around. Um, but you can never go wrong with a Cinco.
Mm-mm.
Just the plain old Yamamoto Cinco. You cannot go wrong with a stick worm of some sort. That's another rod that or another bait that I had rigged on a rod every single tournament, everywhere we went. It's just one of those things from as far south as you can go, where the largemouth swim, all the way up to where the smallmouth swim up north. They're gonna eat a Cinco,
What's
so
your
you
go
gotta have it.
what's your go to
What's my go to? What
go to colors? What are they?
go? I would just green pumpkin, any sort of green pumpkin variety when it comes to a Cinco. Um, and it depends on the watercolor. If it's like a tannic color, kind of like that Florida color, or when you get really far up north, some of those smaller lakes, black and blue, any
Mhm.
sort of black and blue. Um,
I go
and,
to green pumpkin black or green
yeah,
pumpkin seed, whatever they call it, black. 297
yeah,
is.
yeah.
And
I
then
know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
they pro blue for the fall because they cannot stand
Okay.
the color because it's
Yeah. No.
coming down.
Yep.
So
Yep. They love that one.
yeah, so those are my go to. All right, what's
Yeah.
your next? I'm curious. I'm getting all the juice here.
What? Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
So what is there any other baits that helped you out throughout?
Oh, oh, for sure. A chatterbait. I mean, and a bunch of different colors too. That one didn't matter. I changed the colors, the blade color, the size, and the trailer based on the situation. Florida was a lot of green pumpkin and black and blue. Santee Cooper, I was throwing white. Um, shoot, I mean, I think that was one of oh god, Eufaula, I was throwing white. You know, like you just got to match the hatch what they're feeding on. Change up the blade color. Sometimes it was a gold blade, sometimes it was a silver blade. Sometimes it was just based like what everybody else was throwing. I would throw something different because those fish had seen so many of the other same baits. You know, like you got to change it up, especially when there's 225 some of the best bass anglers out there trying to catch the same fish that you're trying to catch. You got to show them something a little bit different.
Different color
Um,
sizes, downsizing to
oh
something
yeah,
smaller bait fish. I mean, just
yeah,
anything.
or beef it up.
Yeah.
That's another one too. Just make it look bigger.
I have heard a lot of tips and tricks on that you just got to be different, especially if you're in
Yeah.
a, but yeah, I mean, all those baits are great. Missile baits, can't beat them.
Mm-mm.
I love them. I
Yep.
have a full, pretty much a lot of missile baits. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
Great people over there that work there. Shout out John Cruz, Alex Watts, whole missile.
Yep.
Um,
They're awesome people. Absolutely love working with them. So much fun. Just good people.
yeah, and they're always willing to help. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Get anything,
Absolutely.
hit them up. They'll get it.
Yeah.
But
Yep. And the cool part about Missile is like they got colors for that are good no matter where you go in the country. They're just their bait selection itself. They're all so versatile. You can use them all in so many different ways. Like yes, they are designed for certain things. Like the D bomb was designed for flipping and punching, but you can use that in so many different ways. And same with the Destroyer and the Chunky D and the Crawfather. Like that's another one. I've used the Crawfather on the back of a mini flip for a jig trailer, the back of a swim jig. You know, like they make baits that are good in so many ways. Another one that is actually a sleeper that not a lot of people use is the 48. So
mm-hmm.
you can wacky rig it, and it's really good wacky rigged. They even have a spot on the backside of that worm that says rig here. It's smack dab in the middle. But where that bait is very underrated is on a shaky head.
Really?
If you're doing something like everybody uses the same old finesse worms, right? With a really like the tail moves a lot. Well, that thing's so big, like you can move it, but that tail will stay up, but it doesn't quiver as much. And sometimes they just don't want a lot of action, especially when there's a lot of pressure. So when I was on Logan Martin, that's what I was throwing. I was throwing the 48 on a shaky head, and they were like crushing it.
You were
It was
blowing.
awesome.
I would never thought on a shaky head. That never
Yeah.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah, it's an awesome and the cool part is it's short. I mean, it's not very big
no,
compared to like all the other shaky head worms. I mean, that thing's just a short little presentation. It's not intrusive to a bass. It looks very easy to eat, so they eat it.
you might have just put me on to something. Hold on.
Yeah, it
You just gave some juice out that people probably didn't know. So
yeah, that's a little one I've been keeping under my cap for a while, especially when you go down south and you're playing around spotted bass, you know, you have to have a shaky head. You
hmm,
have to. And that's something that I just started playing with this year. And I was very impressed. It was
man, I,
awesome.
I'm like in awe right now. That's juice. Okay, yeah. I mean, people overlook the 48 because they're like, oh, it's just another Cinco bait, like Cinco style.
Yep.
But no, they do have Riget right here. And I think the difference between the 48 and just a regular Cinco is the shimmy it has on the way down.
Yeah. It
Um,
waves.
yeah, it waves. It's
Yep.
but no, oh man, I'm really excited now. I want to go try that.
Yeah. You got to try that, man. You'll get a lot of bites on it too. And the cool part about the 48 is if you tear up the front side, just turn the worm over. You can use it the other way around too. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, that's wow. I didn't know. See, you learn something new every day. I'm in shock and awe. That's cool.
Yep.
Well, so let's I did something really fun for this podcast. I asked you to bring your top November baits for us, and
Yep.
you said you have them on deck and ready to roll. So Let's hear them.
I
Let's
do.
up into them.
I'll start out. I'll start out with the first one that I don't have rigged on a rod right now, but this is something that now take in mind. A lot of these are going to be smallmouth oriented because I'm up here in Wisconsin, and I mean it's 60 some degrees out right now, but normally it's cooling off. And the smallmouth bite is getting crazy. It's been pretty crazy, but these are all going to be more smallmouth oriented, except for one of them. Um, but
That's okay. We have some where we're
this thing
at.
has, yeah, yeah, y'all do. That's for sure. But this thing is a mainstay pretty much anywhere I go. I've made a couple videos on it, but it's just an old wobblehead. I don't know if you can really see it all that well, but my lighting here is not very good. But just a wobblehead. And I like throwing on a 3/8 ounce. I just have a little bag here that I keep them all in. I label it. But the cool part about this thing is you can put any piece of plastic you want on the back of it. And the pieces of plastic that I put on the back vary depending on the water temperature. Um, so if it's a little bit warmer, like I'd say anything warmer than like 58 degrees, I'll put it like a destroyer on here, something with a little bit of action, like a twin tail, just more antagonizing to them. And then when it starts to really cool off, that's when I'll put a D-bomb on the back of this thing. And it's just got a great amount of action. I mean, I've flipped this thing, I've casted it, dragged it, reeled it. I've done everything with it, and it just comes through cover really, really well. But one thing that I do when the water gets really cold is, and I'm talking like anything around, I'd say like 48 degrees and lower, is I will put a cast again tube on the back of it. So this is probably one of my favorite colors. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but it's a green pumpkin copper flake, and it's a
Mm,
3.5 inch. And that rigged on the back of that, it's just such a do nothing bait, especially when it comes to smallmouth. Like a tube is just a must in any way you want to rig it. Um, but this thing is very underrated and it catches a lot of really big fish. So that's probably one of the first baits that I'll have out in November, and it catches them. It catches a lot of them.
mm.
But
I'll have to remember that.
all right, yep, wobblehead's a must. I mean, I throw those things everywhere, and I like to fish a lot of rivers and stuff too. That's kind of where I really learned how to do it. I had a buddy of mine, Doug Chapin. He showed me the versatility of a wobblehead, and I've just ran with it ever since. And you can do a lot of things with it. You can change up the weights, and some of them, like these ones, come with the hook, like
Mhm.
pre-made into the head. But you can buy just the heads and then attach whatever kind of hook you want to. I haven't played around with that too much, just because I got one that works for me. But I'm definitely going to in the future, just because it'd be really nice to be able to change it up. And I will say sometimes your hookup ratio isn't the greatest on this. It all depends on their mood and how they're biting. So I want to experiment more with different styles of hooks instead of just the EWG that comes on it, like maybe like a straight shank or something like that, just to get a little bit better of a hookup ratio. Maybe it won't tangle up stuff as much, even though it doesn't tangle up a whole lot. If you're getting stuck a lot, you're throwing too heavy of a weight. That's basically what it comes down
Gotcha.
to. So the next one that I got rigged up over here is a bait that we already talked about, but it's a tube.
Mm,
But just this is a 2.75 cast again tackle tube with a cast again jig head in it. I change up the jig head based on the depth, the cover that I'm fishing, and same with the color. I change up the color based on sometimes it's bottom composition, depending on what they're feeding on. Um, and like a lot of times, I have found this out over the past couple of years that if you don't know what color tube to throw, green pumpkin's always a good bet because the bottom's normally somewhat dark. But if you're fishing around a lake that's got a lot of sand, throw something that blends in with the sand. if you're around an area that has a lot of like darker bottom or darker rock, throw something that blends in with the bottom, because the fish are going to be trying to find bait that blends in with the bottom, because no bait is really going to stand out like a chartreuse tube. I mean, it's not natural. Not saying smallmouth won't bite it, because they're kind of dumb sometimes. But I am much more of a person that goes on the side of being more natural and non-intrusive to a fish, just because of how pressured they're getting. Not saying that chartreuse and your hot pinks and all those hot colors don't work at certain times, but I'm trying to get the most bites that I can, and I feel like the more natural you go, the more bites you're going to get.
Right.
So I got it rigged. I got that rigged up on an ALX Zolo McSmalls. This rod is absolutely perfect for throwing these tiny tubes around. It's a 7.6. It's got a fast tip, and then I throw braid. This is a Daiwa. It's a Daiwa Tatula. This is a 4,000. Is that what size this one is? I think this is the 4,000. 8-pound J braid on there with a. This is a 10-pound Seagar and Vizex leader, and that's my tubing rod. This thing catches so many dang smallmouth this time of year. All you're doing is throwing it out and dragging it around and moving it really slow. I mean, I've caught smallmouth all the way down to 37-degree water with this thing. It's
Shout,
it's
shout
just
out.
a flat catcher. What's
Yeah,
that?
I said shout out Alex. Alex and the crew.
Oh yeah. Oh man, if you haven't checked out their rods yet, you have to. They are the deal. Absolutely. They're super sensitive. They have a rod for everybody. Doesn't matter like price point, actions, everything. They got a rod for you. And they're all high quality. They are.
Customer is absolutely amazing. Um, Email,
Yep.
call them in, get you the right rods you need at the price point you're looking. Shout out LX
Mm-hmm.
Rods. Just call them
Yeah.
up. Great customer service.
Yeah. Really good people. Great people to work with. I mean, what else can you say, really? Biggest
Mm,
thing, and this is just like a personal thing for me. When it comes to people that I work with, it's all about building like a partnership. Like you got to be a good person.
mm.
It makes it that much easier to work with you, and it really just makes it fun. Fishing's supposed to be fun in all aspects.
Yeah,
So
I,
good people make it fun.
I agree. All right, let's get to the next one.
But
It's at the edge of my seat. I'm
all
jumping.
right, yep. This is the last one, and this is not so much a regional bait, um, but it just catches a lot of fish this time of year, and it is the old chandelier,
Oh yeah.
the Alabama rig.
Yes.
Can't go wrong with it. This is the 3.5 inch. This is the diamond blade
Mhm.
Alabama rig. Um, I don't know how many hooks can y'all throw.
We can do 5.
You
I believe.
throw.
I
You
think
can
we.
do 5. So we
Yeah.
don't. Okay, we can only do 3.
Okay.
So that's what I got here. Um, so as you can kind of see, like the one in the middle is a little bit bigger
Hmm.
than the ones on the sides. This honestly was kind of like an experimental one for me. I'll change up the swim baits, I'll change up the colors, but really the only thing that I really like to do that I always kind of keep consistent is the one in the middle is going to be different than the ones on the outside somehow, some way, whether it be size, um, color. A lot of times, what I'll do is I'll dip the tail in a little bit of chartreuse if they're all the same color. But um, this was just the river rig that I was throwing. I got 1/8 ounce jig heads on here, and then a 3/16 in the middle, fishing pretty shallow. I'll beef that all up if I'm fishing out deep. I mean, I've caught fish all the way down to 40 some foot on an Alabama rig this time of year. And the way that they hit this thing is absolutely insane. How hard they will hit it when the water temp is hovering around 40 degrees all the way down to 38 degrees. If it comes close to them and they can get to it quickly, they will jar you when they
They
bite this thing.
run my rod out of your hand. They really want it. Um.
Oh, yeah, they will.
So are you throwing?
But yeah, I mean, What's that?
Are you throwing blades on it? Do you have blades on that one?
Yep,
Yeah.
I got blades on this one. I have a couple other ones that I've cut the blades off of. Kind of go off of what the fish tell me what they want. And that's the same thing with the wires too. Like I'll throw different sized Alabama rigs. I'll throw some 5-inch ones if they don't seem to be wanting this one too much, or if they're just following it, not biting it, I'll change it up.
Mm,
But mostly what I'll do if they're following it and not biting it is I'll just change up the color of the one in the middle and see if
yep.
that triggers them, or change the style of the swim baits. So these are the true bass, the
Hmm.
little swimmers, and I mean they're really good swim baits, but a Kitech on here just gives off that much more action, like a Kitech style. Um,
Hmm.
I feel like when the water gets really cold, that's what you have to have because you don't have to move it very fast to give it a lot of action. These things, you kind of got to reel it a little bit quicker to get those tails to kick. I've caught a lot of bass on these. I actually bought these Alabama rigs when I was down in Gunnersville for the Toyota Series Championship, and that's when I
Mm.
bought all the little swim baits too. Because this is one of the only things I could get them to bite. But I brought it back up north, and I started throwing it around some of the smaller rivers that we got around here, and they absolutely crush this thing. And the nice part um about throwing the smaller one is you can fish it on pretty much the same tackle that you throw your spinner bait on, or like you flip with. Like this is just a flipping stick that I'm throwing this on with 20-pound fluoro CR Mystics, and boat flip pretty much everything with it.
Yeah,
So
I think the off colored swim bait the most right in the middle is the one they hit because it's something different
mhm.
to and they want that.
Yep,
I've never heard that fact, but it just seems to work
yeah,
for some reason. But yeah,
yep.
that
Even just like a small touch of chartreuse or something, just something to make it different on there. They
mhm.
seem to like that a lot more.
So here in
But
Virginia,
yeah, man, those.
it's the water temperature really hasn't even dropped that low. We're still in mid to upper 60s around here. So we
Oh
really
man, yeah.
hard. The bait really hasn't even they're not even chasing bait yet. They're still out in 25 feet of water. So they haven't the good
Oh
fall
my
time.
goodness, yeah.
So well, I can't wait for it to get to where we can throw Alabama rigs because we can catch some absolute giants on that thing. Um, but no, those
Oh,
are
I'm sure.
I really want to experience the jig or like the tube bite because that's something we don't really throw around here in Virginia. Maybe somebody
Yeah,
real sneaky. I've always known it to be like a
yeah,
northern guy thing, but I feel like since
yep.
smallmouth
I
down here too, like something they don't see very often, so
it,
maybe prone to eating it.
the
I
cool
don't.
thing about a tube is it can look like so many different things to a
Mm,
bass, and it goes back to me saying like the same thing about like the 48. It's just so non-intrusive. Like it's not something that's going to look threatening to a fish. So they're just in my mind, if it doesn't look threatening to them, they're more inclined to eat it. And
right.
especially if you make it look like it's trying to get away, they're really
Hmm.
going to eat it. But yeah,
So
I
like,
paired up with Cast Again Tackle. He's out of Seymour, and he makes tube jigs, and he has I don't know how many different colors of tubes, but he's got a bunch of different sizes too. And you're right, it is more of a northern thing. Like anytime you're around smallmouth, northern strain smallmouth, a tube is going to play. I've caught spotted bass on it. I've caught big largemouth on it too. It
hmm,
all just kind of depends. A tube used to be like a go-to flipping bait,
yeah.
and I haven't gone back to it yet because the D bomb is just it's such a lethal bait.
Hmm.
But a tube sometimes, like I was just saying, something that's not threatening to them, like going through a mat, and it doesn't have all those tentacles kicking or anything. It's just gets bites.
Yeah. All three of those baits, I want. Most of them I have tied on pretty much a lot. Definitely the Alabama rig when the temperature, plummets here. That's probably the end of November into early December down here. But no, that was
Yeah,
awesome. I appreciate that. Great information.
yeah, man, absolutely.
So this
Yeah,
this is like another one of my favorite parts of the show is you get to thank people that have helped you throughout the year. So anybody you want to plug, thank, this is your time to hit it, do whatever you want to do.
Oh man. Bro, there's so many. I mean, it like I was saying before, fishing 9 opens is very challenging for everybody involved. I mean, anybody that's close to me, I'm gone a lot, and then when I'm home, I'm working a lot. Like it's just hard. So I mean, I'll just do it overall. Thank you to everybody that's been with me through this entire journey, fishing the Bassmaster Opens, fishing the invitationals and everything. Because let's be real, man, like we're on the road a lot. We're gone
Mm,
a lot. It's not easy for anybody that's close to you. Then obviously all of my sponsors, I mean, I could go on and list them all, man. Like they're all great people. They all are so supportive of everything that you're doing. Obviously the crew at Missile, ALX, Basscat, Mercury, Power Pole, Cast Again, Pro Guide. I mean, if I go on and name them all, I'm gonna miss some of them. But those are just a couple that have like really stood out. Grundon's obviously those guys there too. But like it's hard to do on your own. You
right.
need some sort of support. I mean, it, yeah, it's just a lot. But I just gotta say a huge shout out to everybody that's come along with the journey, and then another one to all of the guys and gals at the fire department that work for me when I go out and chase my dreams out on the water, trying to make this whole fishing thing. It's I couldn't do it without them. That's for dang sure. So
Yeah,
I think
I that's true. Um,
yeah.
so where can they find you? Social media, all that good stuff, so they can go follow you and keep watch on your journey.
I'm on Instagram. You can just look up Andrew Behnke, Behnke Bass Fishing. I'm on TikTok, I think Behnke Bass Fishing or Behnke Fishing. Um, Facebook, YouTube as well. Trying to ramp up my videos, trying to put out some other different kinds of content, and then did I say Facebook? I said Facebook, but yeah, Facebook,
Yeah,
just my name, Andrew
go
Behnke.
to go check out his YouTube. Great tournament videos, great recap videos, great personal videos. You know, I I can be honest, I've watched them all. And I'm a subscriber of yours. So
I
hit the subscribe
I
button. Like,
appreciate it, man.
yeah, you know, just hearing your story, I was like, I have to have you on. But no, I definitely appreciate you taking your time out and giving us a shot.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
And for this episode, thanks for watching, listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.